Yes.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Summer Solstice Open House. We've had a variety of presentations throughout the day, and our next one. Not you. Chemical substance they want to put in our drinking water again. Oh my gosh. Anyways, we chat all about it, certainly what are the solutions and that kind of thing. So thanks for being here, James.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Oh, am I still being okay there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Just chat.
Okay,
Perfect.
so I gotta tell you offhand, water is not sexy. Right? You know, I'm reading the pamphlets over there, and it's like foraging, for flavor. Come and do this and get this elixir, and there's all sorts of things in the health realm that are much more flavorful, much more satisfying, much more nurturing than water. But alas, water is the basis of it all. And a lot of times we forget that, we just don't think about it because, growing up, we go to the tap, or if, back in the 70s, we used to go to the garden hose and drink out of that when we were kids, right? But now more and more chemicals are being added to the water, things are happening in the water, industry is dumping in, there's all sorts of stuff happening. Okay, and so water is becoming a concern for a lot of people, especially with health issues. So, but what we're going to specifically talk about today is just the fluoridation of it. Okay, that's the biggest thing going on right now, is because in a couple of weeks, Calgary's going to throw the switch and we're going to get fluoride back in the water. It's been voted in and out a number of times over the years. But I think more and more people are becoming more aware, more health conscious, and so they're more concerned about it. So my name is James. I work with Northern Water Cleaners, and we do water filtration. That's all we do. We don't do anything else. So I just want to share it with you. So fluoride is added to public water to prevent tooth decay. Okay, that's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. And while endorsed by a number of health agencies, growing concern. Right. So we're going to explore some of the risks associated with fluoridated water. Somebody saying for the uninformed, some people say fluoride is good for you because what it does, it helps prevent tooth decay. There's so many other ways to do it, and I think fluoridation of the water is, personally, I've got a few ideas about it, but it's just overall not a good idea. Okay. There's been a number of studies over the last number of years. States, countries have started implementing bans on fluoride, reduction on fluoride, because they're realizing that the health benefits are not there. They don't outweigh the cost. One of the issues is dental fluorosis. Right? That's early tooth development. It's early excess fluoride during tooth development. So for children especially, if they're drinking too much fluoride, it does damage the teeth. They get staining, they get white spots, brown spots. It's for children that mostly developing under 8. Just this particular one here. Okay. But that's what happens when you drink a lot of fluoride. And now more and more people are saying, we need to drink a lot of water. We need to drink a lot of water. And I know my daughters constantly have water bottles for their children. All day long, every day. So for children, it's going to be an issue. Long-term fluoride accumulation in bones, skeletal fluorosis. Now, fluoride is found in water basically everywhere in the world, but it only depends on natural or chemical produced based on that concentration too. Okay. So, especially as we get older, this is symptoms that can happen. Joint stiffness, pain, brittle bones. As we grow older, we will start to break down even quicker with long-term fluoride use in our water. Okay. This is what happens. Now, this is going to be fairly short because the effects are pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of nuances in them nowadays. Right? So some of these things you probably already know, some of you probably already studied, you've looked up, you've Googled. Right, as soon as they announced it, people are on trying to figure it out. Right, you've been following what's happening in the U.S. with RFK and his push to get fluoride out. Right, just studies show, and So they've gotten fluoride out of Utah and Florida so far. But 80% of the US have been fluoridated since the 60s. So that's what's happening. Here in Alberta, Lethbridge, Red Deer, Edmonton, the Drumheller whole system, which services a lot of small towns, all that's fluoridated. So there's a lot of places we don't even know that are fluoridated just because they don't say anything and they've been doing it for a long time. Okay? But these are some of the long-term effects. Thyroid and hormonal effects. Might reduce hormone production. Now, thyroid hormone production and also various other, especially in women, the water nowadays messes up hormone production. I'm just going to deviate from fluoride a little bit. Back in COVID, when all that was happening and all the vaccines that were given out, people taking them, well, they get flushed down the system. And so how they determined the level of COVID was they looked at the wastewater. Now that wastewater hits to the next town. Many water plants aren't capable of removing that. So there's an increase in pharmaceuticals in the water nowadays, which is messing with young people's hormones, especially young ladies. And fluoride just is part and parcel of that. Might interfere with iodine absorption. Iodine's good for you. Right? You want a small piece of iodine all the time in your diet. It's healthy, right? Brain development and IQ. This is the big one here that's been happening down in the US. Now what they're doing is they're showing studies for long-term use of fluoride in the development of children's IQ. As some people said it, or it makes our kids dumber. There could be a lot of factors to that, but there is a high risk of reduced IQ in younger children for long-term exposure to fluoride. And these studies, they used to be thought of as fringe, thought of as, oh, that's just, this group over here and that group over there. But now these studies are being mainstreamed. Harvard meta-analysis. Okay, conducted tests on here, conducted surveys on here, and this is what they're finding is that's consistent. And even in the fetal development of a child with long-term use of fluoride is an issue. So more and more now, people are becoming aware of what's going on. Normal people now are aware, and more mainstream studies are coming out, which lends credence to the fact that yes, long-term exposure to fluoride is not good. Neurodevelopmental concerns. ADHD. Well, now you go to any school nowadays, half the class are diagnosed with ADHD. That back in the 50s and 60s, ADHD was not an issue. ADHD was not really known very much. But with the advent of processed food, with the advent of more chemicals in water, with the advent of many things, ADHD is on the increase. Right? Prenatal fluoride exposure to ADHD-like symptoms. Increase in hyperactivity. So it's now becoming more and more neurological of what these things do to people and what fluoride does to people. Especially, listen, young boys, they don't need any help in becoming hyperactive. They already are. But when you're giving them processed food, you're giving them chemicals, and giving them fluoride here in this case, it just lends to that. Okay. And what's the cure for that? What's the known cure for that?
They give them drugs.
Give them more drugs. Right, see, it's a vicious cycle. So what's going to happen in 5, 10, 20 years when these kids grow up? See, it's going to fundamentally change society. Okay. Kidney health. Right, reduces fluoride excretion. Your body is doing its best to get rid of fluoride, whatever's in there. You see, Calgary has fluoride, always has. Right? It's got naturally occurring fluoride, always has, coming down from the mountains. That's just part of the deal. It's between 0.1 and 0.4 milligrams. Okay? And your body's able to process a limited amount of fluoride. But the more and more it gets, your body can't process it, you can't expel it, and what it does, it starts to break down your internal organs. Just like chlorine, the body can't expel chlorine. It just begins to break it down, it can't process it, begins to break it down, you see. So these are the greater accumulation of these drugs that they're putting in.
You said naturally occurring fluoride is 0.1 to 0.4.
Generally, it fluctuates in the river water,
What measurement?
milligram per liter.
And what is the amount that you're putting in?
They're going to level it out at 0.7. So what the city says is as the water comes in, and it fluctuates just because of the rock formations, because of what's happening where our water comes from, that if there's less fluoride in the water, they will put more in. If there's more fluoride in, they'll put less in. They'll keep it at a 0.7 milligrams.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. And discussed earlier, fluoride in the bones and tissues starts a breakdown, makes them brittle, starts them to break down quicker and they age quicker, and then we get more health problems. Well, what's the solution for those health problems? More drugs. See, it's that cycle that goes on. So if we can do preventative at the beginning, then our quality of life can get better over time. Okay? People with CKG may face higher risk. CKG, that's a heart issue, right? With your ventricular valves, your arteries coming in, that if there's higher fluoride and you have some heart issues, as an adult, now that affects you. So it's not just children, but it's adults. CKD is chronic kidney disease. Chronic kidney disease. Chronic kidney disease.
The CKD is.
Chronic kidney disease. Right, and there's also CKD in your heart as well. The word is this one. But even kidney disease, yes, and that's what we discussed a little bit earlier. Right here, you can't get rid of it. Okay. Couldn't have flipped on here just yet. Any questions about the health issues with fluoride? Anybody have any other questions before we move on? Because there's more things than just health that happen.
So I have one. Fluorides is a waste product of aluminum something, right?
Yeah.
What else is there in the fluoride that they use? When they add the fluoride to the water, what are the trace elements of other substances in the fluoride?
Yeah. So the trace elements of fluoride sometimes depends on where it's manufactured and what's already in the manufacturing process, okay? So the trace elements, they vary. And they're not really a huge issue on that. So yeah, like here, up here, like if you produce it up here in Canada, you're gonna get different trace elements than you will be from the southern states, where they, right? Yes.
I was on a call the other day and there was a gentleman that had worked in one of these facilities with fluoride in it, and it wasn't per se drinking, it was just the exposure to it. And, all the photos were right over it.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of wondering, I know when we ingest it, and it goes through our digestive tract, but in the sense of washing your hands, brushing your teeth, showering, does that accumulate? Or what are kind of the health of just having to talk about it as opposed to even just drinking?
So yes, exposure to the concentration of of the fluoride chemical, that's the issue. It's the concentration. Okay, because it is highly toxic. So here in Calgary, they store it in wooden vats. They can't store it in metal containers because it corrodes the metal. So it's kind of like concentration of chlorine. Right? If you breathe in a concentration of chlorine, it's going to affect you. Same with the concentration of chlorine. Now, when it comes to topical use, it's not nearly as destructive. Okay, so the studies in the past have said that if you use fluoride toothpaste, you rinse out and you don't get it internally, then it's okay. It's not nearly as harmful, and they would always say it's not harmful at all. Okay. It's the ingestion of prolonged larger amounts of fluoride that breaks down the body. Okay.
Or the smelling was bad working and more like.
Well, that's the
Using it.
concentration, right? Yeah, yeah. So anything, concentrated like that will give you some issues.
But what about like bathing and showering? Because your skin absorbs what's put on it. So if you're showering and bathing, regularly every day or 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah, it
it's gonna
does.
add up.
It's not nearly as toxic for you as pure ingested. Okay. Just for the simple fact of how the fluoride is molecular structured, so it has to get into your internal organs, right?
Okay.
And generally, with showering, and I know when hot shower, your pores open up and that gets in your skin, it does affect it. But really, again, still the number one thing is the ingestion of it.
So when they calculate 0.7, and I guess just pure drinking water rather than touching it with the skin, because that's the biggest organ you have. So would they look to that, or would they just look at that?
They just look at they looked at studies and they looked at what the CDC and the local health organization have determined over the years for the 0.7.
Basically being bad studies. CDC and World Health is terrible.
Exactly, right? But and that's my next slide that we're coming to, right? But what they did, and from my understanding, just it's really, I find it really hard to get any information out of the city when it comes to fluoride. Right? Just because this is my business, I've called various departments, different people, and it's been a little bit difficult to get a straight answer out of anybody. Nobody seems to know. You would think that your counselor would know what's going on. They're kept in the dark of this too. They don't know a whole lot. But so what Calgary did, from my understanding, from what I could get out of it, 0.7 seems to be the point for tooth health, especially in children. That seems to be the standard of what everybody says, yeah, that's what we do. And so that's why they chose that. Right? I can't find any studies that the city did at all on it. I think they just went with what was published out there and said, this is how we're going to do it.
But one of the problems with putting it in the water is you're not able to monitor the dose depending on how much people are drinking.
Yep.
And so like a 2-year-old has a much smaller body mass than an adult male.
Yep.
So the amount of fluoride that the 2-year-old is getting is going to have a different impact than the amount of fluoride that a 6-foot adult male is going to have.
That's why it's so harmful to children. Okay? Because their organs are much smaller, much less able to fight off infection, disease, and contaminants.
Well, a smaller body mass, so the amount of fluoride is going to be greater percentage to the body mass than in an adult.
So where's the payoff? Do they really think that they're putting it in benefit for benefit people's health? Or are they getting kickbacks?
I have my opinions, I have my ideas, I have what I think. They're not based in anything, but you know what? That's up to you to determine, because no, you know, nobody's told me that, nobody said, hey, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. It all depends on the ethical considerations. Right? That's a big one. That's a big one. You know, I have no doubt somebody's getting a kickback somewhere, somebody is this, somebody is that. We don't know. Right? You know, fluoridation is a form of mass medication. I'm a senior citizen. I am not in favor of mass medication. There's no way. You know, and people say it infringes on your freedom, it infringes on this, and it's government overreach. Yes, right. No individual dosage control or informed consent. Well, that's what we're talking about. Right? If we want to live in Calgary, if we want to drink the water, we have to have it. No, we can't choose not to. Right? Unless we go completely off the grid. But you see how that works, right? Raises questions about regarding personal health autonomy. You know, we could have a whole session on that. We could have a whole afternoon's discussion on these 3 points. Because it's out there. Okay. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other, up or down, this or that, because everybody does their research, everybody has their, you know, thing. Who am I to tell you? But I personally, they're all valid, 100%. And that's, yeah. Uninformed masses, we got to become informed. Because, you know, when it comes to our health, our own being, really, we're the only ones that can look after them. Okay. So there's alternatives and precautions that we can take. Now, again, it all takes work. We just can't go along and, you know, take the easy road. Take shower. Use fluoride-free toothpaste, especially for children. That's hard to find and it's expensive. There's ways to make it. You can do that. There's all sorts of things that you can do. Right? Drink filtered water. You can go. See, that's a great advertising for us, right? Well, what you want is you don't want chemicals, contaminants in your water, so you have to deliberately head down that road, right? Eat whole unprocessed foods. You know, so there's different alternatives, different precautions that we can all take for the betterment of our health. Yeah? And that's why you're here, is because that's what you want. You know, we've been partnering with Malcolm and the Light Cellar, I think, for about 12 years now. You know, when he was back at the other place down the road there. Just telling him how long we've been partnering together in this. Oh, I don't know. Been a long time. It's been a long time.
Because he's got the whole store, including the kitchen and everything.
Yes.
On the filter system,
Yeah.
so that there's no fluoride.
Yeah.
Or other things.
Yeah, he does. Okay, so now here. So fluoride may benefit dental health, but it poses risks to bones, brain, and endocrine system. Okay. Vulnerable populations, infants, pregnant women, kidney patients. These are all vulnerable to issues when it comes to fluoridated water. Right? Need to be informed, need to be the informed masses, and precautions are the key. So really, that's the whole idea behind this idea of fluoride, okay? So now, here's what we're gonna do. Removal. This is where it comes a little tricky. Right? I get a lot of phone calls every week. How do we do it? What's the best way? Okay, there's really 4 ways to remove fluoride effectively. One is reverse osmosis. Okay, reverse osmosis, what it does, it strips the water of everything, leaves you with H2O. Okay, it's about 82 to 95% effective, depending on who you ask. So it's up there. One of the issues with a couple of issues, it removes all the minerals out of the water. So if you wanted to go that way, you have to remineralize. And also, you need to run 2 gallons of reverse osmosis RO water to get 1 gallon of unfluoridated water. So it takes a lot of water, can get expensive. Alumina, Malcolm and I have had many discussions on this. Found something new, okay, since we talked. Okay. Alumina, activated alumina. Okay. Comes from aluminum. It does, it's a resin bead, it does remove fluoride, but. Okay. Typically, the best way to do it, 2 things, is if the pH is lower. Okay, helps effectively remove fluoride, and the water flow is slower, so that there's more contact time. Okay, so aluminum works. But those 2, Calgary's pH is 7.2, 7.8 generally. You know, if you had it somewhere around 5.5, that's your optimal use. So pH in Calgary is a little high. It's,
What's the pH when it runs through the system?
we don't change fluid.
Oh, so that stays at that pH, okay, yes.
We don't change pH. Okay. And there's also concern of a possibility of aluminum leaching into the water with this type of system. So that's that, right? There's always pros and cons to all of it. Okay, distillation. This is probably your most effective way of removing fluoride. But again, you don't want to drink distilled water for very long. Okay, not only does it have no minerals, it can actually remove minerals from your body. And where it comes to this, tricalcium phosphate. That's a word that everybody knows. Okay. Where do we find tricalcium phosphate naturally? In bone char. Okay. Bone char seems to be about the most effective and cost-effective way of removing fluoride. Okay. You're gonna get 90–95% of the removal rate. It's the oldest one known to man. It's what they've been doing it for the longest time. The big drawback is that people's life choices may not want to be associated with bovine bone char. Okay? So vegans don't like it, don't want to be associated with it. What I will tell you about that is it's cooked at about 1200, just almost 1300 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, with low oxygen so that it chars up really well. There's really not a molecule of any organic animal left in it when it's done.
Yeah, and it's a byproduct of some of the ethical concerns. Somebody else has chosen to eat the animal, it's just the leftover.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry, what's the animal, what?
it's bovine, cows, yeah. Right? So yeah, so you know, these are choices that people need to look at and make, right? But that's essentially the 4 ways to remove fluoride. It's not much else. You know, I'll get to this in a minute, but we have activated fluoride or activated carbon in here. It's not the greatest at removing fluoride. It does remove some, but not a whole lot comparative to it, okay? So that's, if you want to get rid of fluoride, that's it, or head out to Canmore to the Springs. And you'll be able to reduce your fluoride intake a fair bit. I'm not even sure how much fluoride is in that. There will be some, just because it goes through the rock structures. Right? But naturally occurring fluoride is not nearly as bad as the manufacturer. Okay? So before I head on, any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
In my house, I have reverse osmosis,
Yeah.
and then I was just adding minerals back. But what I don't understand is where you said that you have to run so many liters to really get, so I don't understand that. So I have a system underneath my kitchen sink that is reverse osmosis.
Yeah, because the reverse of the RO regenerates itself
Yeah.
and it uses water to regenerate itself.
Yeah,
So it flushes the water down the drain before you get a chance to use it. Because how it regenerates, it needs to flush it out.
Yeah.
So it takes water, flushes it out, flushes it down the drain, and then you can use the water.
Right.
So that's how it uses water, so you use it.
But then that's just the system that I have in the kitchen sinks,
Right.
and then with the city water still has all the chloride and fluoride.
Yeah.
Fluoride in it, so ideally you have a whole house system, so it's
Right.
taking everything out.
Yeah.
So are you saying that with your system, you have that attachment that?
I'll get that, I'll get to that in a minute, you guys. Yes, sir.
I would just gonna ask, once you start using it over a period of time, does all that fluoride build up in it, or is it removed from like a separate way?
If that's, yeah, on how this whole process works.
I live in an apartment, I have a turkey with fluoride filter. What can I do with the shower and the bath?
Get to that in a minute. I love it. You guys are heading me right in there. You guys are great. You guys have been great wing that.
I don't know, did you talk about kind of concerns of fluoride, in bathing, that kind of thing, like?
That's, I did more, yeah, we did talk.
Yeah, we
about
did
it.
talk about that in
Right,
the
okay.
slides.
Never wash your hands.
I didn't ever watch that. You Sam, yeah.
Brought up the Catmore Spring, because I didn't, I was shocked, I hated how you're, I didn't even know about it until recently. So I went out, I filled up a couple of jugs, we drank it over the course of a few months, and I found it was like so high in minerals that I figured that like it was hard to drink, and the bottom of my jug had like actual sediment in it. So has anyone done any water tests on that?
Yeah, if you want to know more about the Catmore Springs, he knows way more than I do.
Yeah, it is a hard water. Out of the mountains. I think the TDS is, it's like 150 or something like that.
And what should we run on?
I mean, it just depends, like Jean said, distilled water is zero, right? And we don't want that.
And it all depends what's in the TDS, what's in the dissolved solids. Some of the dissolved solids you want,
Yeah,
some you don't. And some of those dissolved solids are hard.
right.
Calcium, for starters, that's the big one, it's hard. But it's a good one.
I think we just go right through, you can't really absorb it unless you use plants or something, plants, right? So I called up the city before, and in the northwest, and so this reservoir has a different TDS to Glenmore.
Okay.
Yeah, so, because you get a like a dishwasher or whatever, which has no salt, you need to set the setting. And that's how I found out that it's different, it's much harder in the northwest. Yes, much harder.
It is, and TDS also changes throughout the year.
Yes, it does.
Right. So, yeah, because, from the bowl or from the elbow, I'm thinking that.
And that's what I was gonna say about the spring water, it would be always fluctuating and changing.
It does, that's one thing about water. The only stagnant water is stagnant water. And what I heard from the city is the information it gave me, it's harder in winter. The TDS is much worse in winter.
In the winter.
In when?
I would
So I
have
kind of went
thought
down that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so that always changes, exactly, right? And there's ways to get rid of it, there's ways to lower it a whole lot, right? It all depending on how you want to do it or what's in there.
But Calgary has hard water, because we have glacial water.
Calgary has
And
hard
if you
water.
look at your water kettle or your shower doors or something, that's
That's still the
film,
nature of it,
just the
right?
minerals precipitating on it.
And Calgary has some of the best water in the world. This is what we put up with. A lot of places you can't even drink tap water.
Yeah,
I grew up in a town where the water was, a little bit brown. Yeah. And the gentleman that started this lives in Moose Jaw. It's a lot brown. That's why he started this. So. Okay, anything else before I head to this? You all want to know about this? I will get to that. Okay? Here we go. Okay, so what we have. This is how we do it. We have a whole home water filtration system. Multi-stage activated carbon with a bacteria killer inside. That bacteria killer is crystallized iodine. So that's good for you. A little bit of it comes through. Okay? This one is just a mini version of this. So this one would be for apartments, condos, travel trailers, things like that. Okay? What it does, this will take out chemicals and contaminants through chemical attraction, but it leaves in the nutrients. So no, your tea kettle will not lose its white scaling because of this. It will reduce it because the harsh chemicals that attach to the calcium are now removed, so it's not nearly as bad. But it's still there because it's calcium. Right? In order to get soft water, you remove calcium and magnesium, that's sodium, and you don't want to drink it. Okay, so that's what these two are. This is just mini of that. And how we run our business is, these are leases. And you don't buy it, it's a lease. $50 a month for 60 months. Now with that, is that you get a warranty for as long as this is in your home. So if anything goes wrong, we'll fix it, replace it, no charge. So if you move in the area, you can take it with you. Okay, that's those. Any questions about that?
What if you don't have access to your intake for your water from your apartment?
Pardon?
So in my apartment, I don't have access to
Right.
the intake?
So with yours, what this does, so this goes on the main water coming into the house, so it filters all the water. Your bathtub, your shower, your sink, dishwasher, your laundry, your dog bowl, your garden out back. So for an apartment, we can only filter cold water. Okay, activated carbon and hot water don't do well together. So we put this under your sink. There's the cold tap water to your sink in your kitchen, and then we have a fluoride cartridge, or sorry, fluoride cartridge, a carbon cartridge for your shower. So you put on there, that will filter your shower water.
Like on the shower head.
Fluoride as well.
That one won't. Okay, that's what that is.
How does this system work with people that have soft water systems?
That's fine. What it does is we want to attach this as close to your main water shutoff as possible before there's any branch lines. So that the water gets filtered before your soft water. Okay, oh, that's just on this.
Yeah, I just so that they can see that for.
They can't see, they see this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all they see. I mean, I could change it. I can change it, 1 second.
Or you-
So that's what we want to do. So what this will do then for your system. There you go. Hopefully that'll come on. Maybe. Right, so what it does with your water softener, it helps it run more efficiently because it doesn't have to deal with so many chemicals. Now, I've had customers tell me to take out their water softener when I put this in. I've had customers ask me to install a water softener. So it's just all preference. Okay,
They work together.
they do. So what this does is because it takes out the chemicals and contaminants, it helps things run more efficiently, like your water softener or your laundry or your dishwasher. Yeah, because you're not dealing with all the hard chemicals.
So I've got a deep chlorine about as big as that. It's like an industrial. And then I've got my water softener. Where would that go? Before the dechlorinated?
You could replace your fluoride with that. What's that?
I only just got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so this can go on after if you like, because it does take out chlorine. Right, so if your dechlorinator takes out most of the chlorine, then whatever is left could be taken out in this with everything else.
Can I just put the chlorine filter?
You can, but now does your dechlorinator take out pharmaceuticals, pesticides, organic matter?
I don't know. So can I-
Trihalomethanes, heavy metals. See, that may not
It's only
be,
carbon, from what I understand, that dechlorinated.
right, so that you'll have to check with whatever you have. Right, now, do you need to backflush that out as well? No, okay, just so
She said it's straight through.
just sits in.
It's a kinetic.
Okay, yeah, so they use resin and stuff.
Yeah.
Right, okay,
So what do you guys use in these systems? You mentioned the
Activated
crystallized, activated carbon, okay. And the crystallized iodine, you said.
Yeah.
Anything else? No, that's it?
See, activated carbon has been used for millennia to filter
And what's the source of your carbon?
coconut. Most of it's,
Oh, coconut fiber.
yeah, that seems to be the best one. Yeah. Okay, now we're almost there. So I am going to get onto this one. This is a bone char filter. Okay, this goes in here. This goes on after. Okay, so you can put this on, this goes in here. Now, this has to be changed about every 3 months. Okay, so the manufacturer says we should change it like that. So that's what we're going with for now. Now, what we're doing two things. One is, once fluoride is introduced, we're gonna be doing testing, regular testing, to see if these last longer here in Calgary. To remove fluoride. Because if we can keep them longer, life is great. If not, well, you don't want to not remove fluoride if you have to, right? So you have to be diligent. Homeowners can change this, no problem. You can order them, get them sent to you, and you have them. Okay, secondly, what we're working on, and it's going slower, a lot slower than I hoped.
Is it just lifetime based on flow pass?
Yeah.
So if you're one person living,
One person,
you can milk another month out of it
you might be able to, yeah,
in concept.
yeah, in concept, definitely. Yeah,
So you're gonna do testing on it. Like I said, there was a difference between the northwest and the south.
Yeah.
They're gonna be both tested, so we know.
what they're doing is they're taking the water fluoride level at each one. And they're bringing it up to 0.7. So they're gonna be the same flowing either one. So, okay, go ahead.
So, the filters are for the bone char are 65.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have a filter, that's
This
just,
is the filter.
oh, but the bone char needs to be like that one.
That's just a fluoride. That's just for
Oh.
fluoride.
So to replace the filter every 3 months, it's that one.
Yep, that's just fine. No, this one lasts this one lasts 5 years. Okay,
So you replace
the
those.
fluoride, yes.
You can do that yourself, once it's
Yes.
installed, just. So the original install was 100,
Yeah, for this.
and then
Yeah. And they're real easy to change.
Yeah.
Just drops in there.
I think I can help.
Right? Okay, what we're working on, and hopefully we're gonna get it done, it's, proving a little difficult, we're looking at making the fluoride filter this big. So that it would last about a year. Because really, that's what you want. Again, one jar fluoride, it's a little tricky, so it's taking longer. So this is what we have. Now, I will tell you this. I've probably installed. I can't remember how many so far. And I've had a few phone calls where people have said, you know what, it restricts my water flow. Okay, now what can happen is, if your water pressure is lower, Calgary runs about 70 pounds per square inch. Okay, but if your water pressure gets lower, trying to push water through these, it's a little harder, so it slows it down. And also if these get built up with fluoride, it can slow it down. So, if you're finding your water gets a little slower, then this may need to be changed. Sorry, but that's how it works.
But better than nothing at this time.
It is, and you know what, of all the ones I've had put in, I think I've had 3. And one lady has a few of these on as well, like different smaller filters for different things. So, and the more filters you put on, it'll decline. So that was hers. Yep.
What's the expected flow rate going into your house here for one of those?
Well, so the city runs about 70 pounds per square. Okay, that's what, gallons per minute, right offhand, I couldn't tell you. That's fairly good.
Oh, you have some specs on that, let's say, how much you need to let it through, because you might need to turn it up, right?
No, there's no specs on that.
Oh,
No, we don't worry about that. They just go, here you go, it will. Because there's, cities run anywhere from 40 to 80 PSI, so. Yeah. But it's,
And how often would you change these filters?
this one's every 3 months. These ones are every 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah. And what happens after 5 years? We'll come in, we'll tell you, we'll give you a call, we'll tell you it's time to change it. We'll come in, take it out, give you a brand new one and just carry on. So there's no fee to come in and exchange it.
And what's with the like PFAS on these? Like the forever chemicals, like the plastics, that's got a plastic now. Is that a fiberglass resin?
This is a fiberglass resin, yeah.
So how backed up are you? We called you today and we wanted to get this done.
Here's the bad news. See, I knew somebody was gonna ask. Here's the bad news. These, I have this one. I could auction it off for a lot of money right now. This is the only one I have. They're back ordered until the first week of July. So once I get them, somebody calls me, wants one, I will put it on the list and probably within a couple of weeks, we get it. Okay, because, what I can do is we go around and we can do a number of these in a day. And then we'll just pick an area of the city, do one, and just keep doing it until we're all caught up. So I've got about 50 to put in so far.
When the water goes through that fluoride film, does it taste different? No, you can't tell.
No, I haven't, I personally haven't found any difference. Now, again. Some people might, but it shouldn't, because again, it's just removing, it's not adding. Or water will taste different before and after this. Right? Because that's taking out chemicals and contaminants, brings it into here, and this removes fluoride. This also removes, some chlorine, heavy metals, things like that as well, but it's not nearly as effective as that. Okay? Yes.
So you get them both in tandem. So the big one is downstairs connected to your, and where does this one go? And what is, this is just sort of like that secondary step.
If you want, this can go on your water main, on your main water line coming in. So this would come in like this. And that one would sit somewhere near it. So water comes in, goes in, then into your house. Okay, some people, they just want them for their drinking, so it can go into your sink. It's up to you.
I see.
Yep.
So that is basically taking up or removing a lot of the other stuff. This is specifically for the fluoride.
Yes. Because activated carbon will take out 2/3, 70% of fluoride. Right, but that's it. Right, so if you want more, then this is really the way to go.
How much does that pay when you go? I understand that is 95, right?
$65.
No, the bone shell
Takes out over 90%.
on its own without it.
But I will tell you this, if you just put that in, you're gonna be changing that about every 3 weeks in a month. Because there's all the chemicals and contaminants stuff about. Something like that. Yeah. So what I never. Yeah, I think I got everything now. Okay. Anything else? It's 10-2. Yeah, I have to be cognizant. So here's what we do. I have my cards here. This is the office number. Our website, office number's on there. Or you can write this down. Write it down and every minute. My email is calgary@northernwatercleaners.com. My direct line is 403-708-9225. So we can even put these in before the fluoride filters come in, then what I would do is just come back and put the fluoride filter if you wanted that. So that way you get clean, healthy water to start, and then when the fluoride filters come in, you can do that. Okay,